welcome to Startup Grind. My name is Lauren Baxter, and I am the director of Startup Grind Phoenix. I am so excited to have our guest, Russ Perry, who is the CEO and founder of Pickle. Probably my favorite company name.
Thank you.
Don't tell my husband. I want to thank our sponsors, Downtown Phoenix and Hool Curry Law, for supporting us through this and being just amazing sponsors. We're going to kick off this conversation with Russ for about an hour, and then we will have some audience Q&A. So feel free to put them in the chat. I'll throw them in. This isn't a formal conversation, so I can always interrupt anytime. And Russ, feel free to add. So we'll kick it off right now with, the elephant in the room. How are you feeling right now with the challenges of the pandemic? I know off the recording, we just talked about your kids and homeschooling, but in Pickle, how is that going?
Yeah, I think we are overall doing really well. There was no avoiding the challenges earlier in the year, and I don't think we're out of those right now. But our service, our business model, when I started it, there was this kind of piece in the back of my mind that, like, if there is a downturn again, if there is a recession, we're probably in pretty good shape because we are an alternative for creative services for a lot of businesses, and most of the alternatives that we compete against are much more expensive and complicated. So at the end of the day, it's been really solid, but it isn't without our challenges. A lot of our team members, we have a global team of creatives around the world, and they've been faced with far tougher situations than here in the United States, with lockdowns and family and business impacts. And so it's been up and down, but I would say, the chart is mostly up, and that's been exciting because then it's allowed us to provide a lot of support to our clients who are entrepreneurs, small businesses, marketers, people trying to get their life and keep their wheels on the bus. And we haven't had to worry about interrupting at least our value to them. We've been able to stay steady and stay constant with that.
Have you seen a good amount of companies that may have had their own design team and had to let them go move into your space?
Yeah. I got to see a lot of my team members on this call. So there's definitely a lot of familiarity with Pickle. But at the end of the day, what we do is we're a subscription model for creativity, and we have team members around the globe, and they work for us pretty much full time. So they're contractors, but we can say, hey, come contract with the Pickle. We will give you 40 hours full work every week. We pay really well. We have a cool culture, lots of swag, lots of cool things like that. And so for that, it was something that we have been in the space where we can charge less and we have less complexity to work with us. It's like signing up for SaaS, and we are a SaaS model. We have all of our clients are recurring revenue type model. But there is kind of an ego in a way for folks where it's like, well, what am I signing up for? It seems too good to be true. I'm not sure. And so COVID kind of punched everyone in the throat that had an ego and said, how committed are you to your ego? Or are you more committed to saving some money and still getting creative services? So we had a huge influx of new clients. April and March were our biggest sign-up months ever.
Wow.
Compare also with our biggest cancellation months, but
yes.
and I believe it was everyone on the fringe who, maybe they were just fine with their creative, but had a budget cut, had a rebrand they had to do because their messaging now needed to change. And so they jumped off the fence and gave us a shot and kind of found out, wow, this service works. It's not so bad.
It isn't too good to be true.
I really exactly. I really like my designer from Mexico or wherever, our team members are from.
Well, and I bet they would, especially from such a global perspective, they're going to add some diverse perspectives on some of the projects.
It is. And, I'm a creative and I can get in hot water by even broaching this topic, but okay, I ran the creative branding agency that charged you $250,000 for a logo. So that was the kind of world I came from.
Yeah.
And we did more than that, but that's a great egotistical summation of my idea is so good, you're going to pay me 6 figures for it. So there's a lot of subjectivity and creativity. And if
Yeah.
I was to go to many Western, not all, but many Western designers who went to art school, who have a bunch of student loans, who are in a position where they want to have a family and buy a house and do all that, I'm like, hey, how about I pay you $10 an hour and you're going to design 50 Facebook ads a day? Are you really excited for that? They'd be like, no way. Like, I don't want to do that. I can't make a living. That's not cool. That's not creative. That's production work. Like, I don't want to do it. Let's get an intern to do it. My creatives, that's 3 times their normal rates that they would normally be making. A starting creative in most of our markets makes $2 to $3 an hour. $2 to $3 an hour. And that's like normal. That's like the economies that they're in. They for them, it's a career. And if they're doing Facebook ads or brochures or ads, print ads or display, whatever, there's not this aura of I'm too good for it. And I say that exists because I was that person, like I was that guy.
You know the world.
Exactly. So we fit the bill. And the cool magic is when creatives start hiring us. That's the secret. That's the funny part, when they're like, wait, I'm a designer. I run a small design shop. I'm a creative in an agency, or I'm an in-house creative. I can get part-time help for $1,000 a month and I don't have to do these things. Like, sign me up. And, they become instant converts. Now they love Design Pickle, was before they might be kind of chatting about it.
Well, that's the best compliment ever.
Right. I used to be in such flame wars on Facebook and Twitter. I had to physically remove myself from managing social media because I would just launch novels and get in battles, and you never win that game. But my record is I did convert many people. They would apologize and be like, you know what, you're right. So I was pretty good at it, but not necessarily good use of my time.
Yeah, now you have better things to do, like teach geometry to your 15-year-old.
Learning proofs in geometry. Exactly.
Well, I'll have PTSD if you say that again. I was not great at math. Do you have any tips before we get into what makes you you? Do you have any tips for new founders that are just kind of starting right now, to how to stay grounded during this time and stay hopeful?
Well, I think keep the math in mind and keep the long horizon in mind. The pandemics have happened all throughout humanity. This isn't new. It's new to us in our lifetime, but and in the blip of a lifetime in your business career and everything you're doing, it's going to just be one moment. So that's just like to keep your peace of mind with it. Also, statistically speaking, we are super fortunate, like just to have these cameras and you and I to be talking and have this time. Like, we're in a position where we're not out working. Like, I had Uber Eats delivered, like that. There's an economy around us that is in a position that is much different than we're at. And so you still have a lot of value and abundance to give. And there's still a lot of value and abundance to find and to create in this world. So there could be lots of dark stuff. And, I don't get on the news. I'm not on social media, so that I can stay focused on that abundance and not slip into that negative mindset. So people starting, I think, like, get after it. There's still an economy. There's still lots of business. There's still lots of people. There's still lots of problems. There's really, really new problems that don't have solutions. And that to me is exciting. And like, they're gonna be curveballs. I'm getting curveballs every week, and they're different curveballs than I've ever imagined. But at the end of the day, they're things that I don't let overshadow that positivity and that abundance mindset.
Awesome. Great answer. All right, so let's take it back. I know you grew up in Arizona, correct?
Correct. Native,
so,
third generation.
that's pretty great. Not many of our founders have been from Arizona. Can you share your thoughts on what you wanted to be like when you were really little as a kid?
Yeah, so I wanted to be 3 things in this order. The first was a scientist experiment man. Like, I just wanted to experiment and test things all the time, and wear a lab coat and have beakers that were overflowing and exploding. And then I wanted to be a DJ, which in hindsight could have been a really great choice with the rise of EDM, because there wasn't really electronic dance music when I was a kid. If but I really wanted to be a DJ. And I think if I would have stuck with that, I could have been far richer and far more wealthy than I am today. So like, I'm not at all. These guys get paid like $1 million just to play one show. Like it's crazy. So some thoughts there. And then the last was a computer engineer. So I took a year of computer engineering at ASU and hated it. Like, and then the straw that broke the camel's back is I was at a Del Taco in Chandler, Arizona, and overheard Intel engineers lamenting about how horrible their life was. I was visiting my mom who lived in Ahwatukee my freshman year of college, and it was like I was hearing my future, and I was like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of this. So then just switched degrees to industrial design, got a Bachelor of Interdisciplinary Studies with that and communications, and then like had no clue what I was going to do. Like there was no vision or plan. So I just got a job after college.
I've never heard of a really aha moment at Del Taco, but now I have.
Yeah.
This is excellent.
It was like the ghost of Del Taco future talking to me of what I could be and to get out.
So before we even get to ASU, did you have any entrepreneurial habits growing up or anyone that like kind of nurtured that? Because those are three very different career choices.
Yeah.
So anyone nurturing that in you, or like starting rock shops when you were 3 or something like that?
Very close, actually. Geology is big in my family. But so I didn't know what it was, but I had tons of those moments. I didn't know what the term entrepreneur was. The only business owners that I had were in my dad's side. They owned a Pepsi distribution plant. They actually still do, from Safford, Arizona. But it was more of like a family business. And, it's with a brand like Pepsi. So you don't really think of them like starting their own thing. But I was always trying to solve problems because I thought there was a lot of broken things and I thought rules were stupid and these were things that I should fix and make money, because my mom is still a single mom teacher. And God bless her. She's like 2 years away from retirement, 3rd grade teacher, 30 plus years. And like, this is her finale round is like COVID. It's like, oh gosh, sorry, mom. But like, I was like, so there was super limited resources in my home. So I've been working since I was like 14, whatever the legal age to work was. I was like getting driven by my grandparents to jobs and to do things. And so I had that drive to like produce value, and I loved working, and I still do. And I get a lot of joy out of creating value for others through different ways. But then that like problem solving mindset, like, hey, what if we did this? And what if we did this? And I worked at Apple for a bit. And when I worked for the corporate side and I worked for the retail side, first corporate, then retail. And in the retail, it was just retail. Like it's not actually that exciting of a job when you're working retail, even if you're working for Apple. Cool people, cool products, learned a lot. But I was like, let's make a new scheduling system. Let's do this. Let's create these problems. This workflow is not really working for clients, and And so ultimately discovering entrepreneurship came as a methodology for me to access freedom of time, freedom from requesting time off, freedom from requesting PTO and those things when I had my first daughter, so it was an unplanned, unexpected, huge joy. But that was like an immediate collision with life. Was here's this new great thing in my life, my daughter, and here's all these rules of like getting time off work, because I had to share time with her mom, 50-50 custody and stuff. So that one I was like, wait, I can work for myself and set my own schedule. How do I do this? Let's figure this one out. Yeah, exactly. So that's when I like launched my first business, which is just freelance design. And that was in 2005.
Well, I love what you said. I mean, this is kind of anyone in the audience to know you're an entrepreneur. You love to solve problems. Rules are stupid and make money. I mean, I feel like to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to bend the rules. So.
Yeah. Well, and like, I think that's where great innovation comes from, because markets change, technology changes, problems change. And a lot of times rules are just risk mitigation. That's all that it is. And sometimes those rules become outdated, or the processes become outdated, or the technology becomes outdated, and like wanting to break them, not in a nefarious way, but it's like, well, what if we did it this way? What if we
Yeah,
changed things? That's where those aha moments come from.
absolutely. So in college, you actually worked at Apple at the retail store,
I did. No, I worked at in the corporate higher ed
corporate.
sales in
Okay.
college. Yeah, so
And
that
and
was
then you
great.
worked in retail too as well.
Yep, I took a
So you got to see
break,
both
did a
sides.
little bit of corporate marketing branding work for a company out of Korea called LG, and I actually worked for a less exciting division. They have like cool electronics division. I've worked for the solid surface countertop division of LG,
Hmm.
which wasn't as glamorous as it could have been, although it was
No.
actually a super fun job. But yeah, it was amazing. The Apple experiences were bookended with two life-changing moments. Was the launch of the iPod, which I
Okay.
worked for them, and I launched at ASU, and I had all these
Wow.
activations and campaigns and did stuff. And then the launch of the iPhone, which when I was in the retail store, I was there opening night, helping sell and do the iPhone stuff. And so understanding branding and marketing and that from a consumer lens was what I took when I launched my first business, which was more of a B2B tech branding and marketing company. But I
Mhm.
these cool consumer mindsets and ways of doing branding and activations that I learned at Apple and brought them to really exciting fields like, like solid surface countertops and rural electricity management companies and like all these other things that I could get hired for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I remember you saying that at Apple you had picked up some freelance clients. Is that how it kind of, and you had your daughter.
Yeah.
So did that kind of all streamline into your first business?
Yeah, it was a confluence of events where I had my daughter. There was friction there, so I was kind of thinking about it. I had worked at um, in the corporate marketing department for LG prior, so I'd really honed my skills as a graphic designer. I still sucked by today's standards. I thought I was okay, but I actually was pretty terrible. And then I needed this wrist surgery, which was like this
Yep.
impending wrist surgery that would take me out of the game for a couple weeks. So I sort of in my mind I was like, look, I'll do this wrist surgery. I'll be on medical leave for like 2 or 3 weeks. What if I just did a lot of biz dev? And because I was doing freelance at Apple at like kind of like under the table from the creative bar, like, hey, if you need a
Yeah.
business card, let me know. Probably
Here's my
totally
card.
illegal. Like probably could have got fired for it, but there was no way to make a business out of it, and I was working all the time, so it was hard. I couldn't like have clients or do meetings and things. So then I got to the point where I was like, well, if I just do biz dev a bunch and get some clients, if I can get close to what I'm making in some new business, I'll just resign and give this thing a go. And if I don't, I'll come back, and there's really no harm. Like I don't have to worry about any conflict there. And I got this huge project from my old employer, LG. They hired me back to do this huge catalog print thing. And it was like 4 months of Apple salary. And I was like,
Wow.
done, let's do
Yeah.
this. And so my
Yeah.
first business was launched that way.
You only need one. And it just you only need one. So tell me a little bit. I'm going to close my window in a second.
Yeah.
What was life like developing your first business? Tell me
You
about
know,
that.
it was a shit show. It was horrible, actually. There was no skill. I had no skills in it at all. I ran the worst business possible. Like I was,
Tell us about that.
yeah. Like so, first of all, like I drank way too much, and that was terrible because that was my stress coping mechanism, and that ended up causing a lot of problems in my marriage. And then I was just like super insecure about who I was. I wasn't a good manager because I was like afraid of hurting people's feelings. And then I would end up not telling them the truth, or I would dodge it. And that ended up being worse than whatever I was like thinking about or feeling, and it created a bad environment. And I just kind of covered it all up, and that created a lot of stress. Client work was just a bad business in general. Nothing was repeatable, nothing was replicable. There were no processes, there were no systems, there was no Trainual at this time. I was a big
Yeah.
fan of that tool slash investor.
Go
But
Chris.
like, yeah, but like the point is like it was the worst of every measurement of an entrepreneur I was failing at. The one thing I had going for me, I was a great salesman and I was a really creative problem solver. So I could continue the sales part. And sometimes we would deliver and other times we wouldn't. And
Sounds like a grind, though.
yeah, it was great. It was not great. It was a grind. It was horrible. But it was just this ever evolving door. And, as I was like conquering my addiction and really facing those fears, I got sober in 2013. And so this was like right at this moment where I was like, look, I'm going to give this one more go. And
what prompted that? What prompted that? Was that
sobriety
business or yeah?
Like
Sobriety.
not getting divorced and losing everything in my personal life. That was the choice. And like realizing like life is hard when you have this challenge. Like I wrote a book, Sober Entrepreneur, that talks a lot about it, but everyone's addicted to something. Like to be an entrepreneur, you have to be addicted to a crazy idea that doesn't make sense. Hey, I'm going to quit this cool job. I'm going to launch this business. I'm going to face this competition. I'm going to try to solve this problem that's never been solved or done this way. And I'm going to be broke and I'm going to put it all on the table. You have to be addicted to this this thing. Yeah. So like the thought that like alcohol or these drugs or food or pornography or these things can sleep in isn't a far stretch because you already have this addictive personality. So for me, I realized like, wow, I've been struggling all my life with business, like this dysfunctional 8.5 years of business, made so many mistakes. It's bled into my personal life. What if I just started with fixing this personal thing first? Maybe that's going to have a trickle down effect to my business. This was my theory.
Great advice for all entrepreneurs.
Right. Like I'm struggling in my business, yet I'm hanging on by a thread in my personal life. I wonder if there's some connection there. So I just went, I didn't even care about the business. I did my best. I kept some clients going. I had a partner now at this point in my career in Argentina who I brought on about on like year 6 or 7 to help. But I was like, let's fix this problem. Let's fix my marriage. Let's go to counseling. I started to do like professional and personal coaching and business coaches, reading books on things, nothing to do with business. And it was like this huge weight was lifted off my shoulder. And I finally could see business from that third party view. And I saw a dumpster fire. And it was just like, I need to put this dumpster fire out. I've been living in a dumpster fire. I need to stop that. And that was the real hard year for me, 2014. Personal life was getting better, but I had to just close everything down on the business side. And that was scary. I had no income, no savings. I had 2 kids at this time. Me and my wife had a daughter now. Barely got through this marriage stuff. And now I'm going back to my wife like, hey, babe, I'm unemployed. I have no idea where we're going to make money. So, but it was the best decision ever because it gave me the space to then start creating from this new version of myself, which is what Design Pickle came out of.
Kind of gave you a blank slate so you could just
it was a total blank
slate.
Up. Yeah, exactly. It was awesome.
So you close your first business and all of a sudden, I think you said 1/10 the stress and more money. So how you started consulting and you're like, wow, I'm a lot less stressed. I'm making more money. And Design Pickle's bones started to come out of that. Can you tell us what it was to start that and then start to create this company?
Right. So, I was consulting, which I learned is what unemployed entrepreneurs do. They consult.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is fantastic. I get paid to be an expert. I have no responsibility, no accountability. If they listen to me, I just come in and do my thing. But with this consulting, I had collected enough of, because of my background, I had collected enough of like small design jobs. Like some clients needed business cards or trade show graphics or whatever, or a website update. So I was like doing all these little things. And a couple of my consulting clients required me to be in office from a period of time. And I've always been like super ethical about like my work and what I do. So when I was at office for these clients, I was not working on the other client stuff. And this was becoming problematic because if like something came in and I didn't answer my email till 8 at night, 9 at night, then I had no time to get it or I missed it. So I set up this little like inbox system with the ticketing tool called Zendesk and found a couple creatives, a creative and a project manager. Just so happens they knew each other and they're from the Philippines. That wasn't like a choice. I wasn't trying to outsource, I just like, hey, you're who I found on Upwork.
Yeah.
So they were just managing that inbox. They would design things. Sometimes if it was simple enough, they'd send it back to the client. Other times they would send it to me for review. And this little like micro consulting business process started to work pretty well. And the story I always tell was like, a client, his name's Josh Rosen. He's a really amazing dude here in Arizona. Like he came to me and he was just like, hey, thanks for those business cards for our trade show in Las Vegas coming up. And I was like, hey, yeah, no problem. That was awesome. And I like had no idea what he was talking about. Like
But
totally
you're good at faking it.
totally lied to his face. But this was like, what happened? And of course, these came in, they got designed, they got delivered, and it started working. So I started putting all my clients on consulting. I actually came to Josh, asked him, I was like, hey, I have this idea for business. Do you want to invest in it? And he said no. I haven't never circled back to see if he regrets that decision, but
maybe after this.
Yeah. But like the point is that was so much, that was a business, consulting wasn't a business. Consulting was just selling my time and my energy. So I was listening to a startup podcast at Stanford. I think the Y Combinator people put it together. And I was just like, all the stuff they talk about, recurring revenue, valuations, this and that. And I just sort of thought, well, man, I wonder if I can just get a business together, try to do it on like a recurring model with this tool that I've built. And so, yeah, those were the bones that I was talking about. And the added like icing on the cake that I didn't realize about using an outsourced team across the sea was they would work at night. So it was this like cool flow where my clients would deliver things during the day. They would get designed in late afternoon and evening and then be delivered in the morning or at night while you're sleeping. So this like next biz day kind of model was like really kind of nice and actually really fast for what people were what they were used to. Most people are used to waiting 3 or 4 days just for a round. And this was like, boom, 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 every day, every business day, you're going to get something, you're going to get something, you're going to get something. So that's the bones. And we branded it Design Pickle because I violated every rule in my book for branding. I picked an easy name that was available in GoDaddy and I drew the logo. This isn't the logo. It's not holding a heart, but this is our volunteer shirts that we have. But like I just drew this on a napkin as actually my journal and showed it to my 3-year-old at the time. And she's like, a pickle. And that's how we did it. So there was no brand strategy. There was no,
my next question.
There was nothing. And I was so like, I felt so out of integrity from my brand soul that I did it this way, but it ended up being the best. Like it's the best brand I think I've ever built. So
do you think you would probably had put way too much thought in it if you had gone through the traditional way of figuring out a brand, like hemmed and hawed over it?
Now, to my defense, most of the brands that I did were rebrands. So they were a bit different. I have to say that they weren't like, get it started and going.
Yeah.
Not to say those don't cost a lot sometimes, but this was like my mindset was design is such a hassle sometimes, like finding someone, hiring them. Are they available? Do we have to meet? Did they move to Thailand? What's this bill? So I was just like, let's just make it as friendly as possible. And that ended up becoming our first core value, was friendly. Because when you work with us, it may not be the right fit for you, but at least you're not going to be pissed off trying us out. And that's what we still try to stand by, is just this like, hey, just give us a shot. Let's see if it works or not.
I was going to save this for later, but do you have a favorite kind of pickle?
I mean, dill is definitely, I love spicy dill. Mrs. Klein's makes a really good spicy dill. They're a local Arizona company that makes pickles, but I'm an equal pickle cruncher. I'll eat them all.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. Sweet pickles kind of weird me out because I don't really like thing like that kind of food being sweet, but like, and there's actually like there's Cholula pickles now. There's all sorts of mashup brands. I know everything pickle because anytime anyone sees anything, I get a picture of it. I get like 10 pickle popcorn came out at Trader Joe's. I probably got a picture every day for like 2 months straight from somebody.
I'm sure you have the pickle ornament.
Yeah. Can I share something really
Sure.
exciting?
Yes,
We
please.
just signed the purchase agreement for pickle.com. So we
Oh,
are going to own pickle.com.
how hard was that to get?
3.5 years of my life trying to figure out how to buy this thing. It was like, I'm going to do like
And who owned it?
um, uh, I'm not going to say it cause I don't know what
Yeah,
the rules are. I mean, I don't think there's any rules, but I'm just like, now,
yeah, we'll keep that
it's a major TV network owns it. So what happened
one.
was this was like this domain's 25 years old. And
Wow.
it became a media site, and like a company bought the media site that bought a company that bought a company that bought a company. So no one knew. The company that I'm buying it from didn't even knew they owned it. Like I solved the riddle of that they owned it, because this thing was just buried in like asset purchase after asset purchase.
Wow.
But yeah, so you're talking
Well, that's
to
exciting.
a
That's
company that
very
will own
exciting.
Pickle. We're going to get the worst inbound organic traffic. That's for sure. Once this is launched, like so many disappointed people that they're not finding pickles for sale.
But do you need a design? We've
That's
got
right. That's right.
that. So you said pretty much consulting isn't scalable. And any lessons that you learned, I'm sure there were many, from your first business that you wanted to change in building Design Pickle? Not only scalable and like less time, more money, but anything else, any big ones?
Oh gosh. I mean, I can talk for 10 hours of the things I learned to do differently. I mean, let's start with
Let's start with three.
yeah, let's start with selling something people actually want to buy and find value in. Like, I don't have to sell you on Design Pickle. If you're a client, I say you can get a part-time designer for $1,000 a month. If you don't think that's an amazing deal, like you're like really interested in it, then you're not a client for it. It's like we don't
Yeah.
sell people into what we do. At the agency, my previous business, I had to like sell you hard. So there was all this expectation, there was all this performance anxiety of what if we're going to do it or not. So like people starting now, like this is so simple, but it's so true. Do or create or build something that isn't complicated to sell.
Mm-hmm.
You
It's
don't
just a
need,
need.
yeah, like
Yeah.
you don't need a big deck of an outbound sales force, SDRs, BDRs, burp, 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 burp. Like you could just share it, and people are like, wow, I either need that or I'm clear that I don't, and you can move on.
Yeah.
This to me was one of our, and still is our secret weapon as far as our growth, is like there is not a complex sales piece to what we do. The second is like make money early. That
Mm-hmm.
was another thing. Like we're bootstrapped. We've done some debt lending that's been favorable for us. We're going to do a big growth round next year, and I'm excited for. We don't have to, but
Yeah.
we're going to do it, and that's because we had a healthy business model from the get-go. Now, I have a lot of friends in SaaS. There's some problems you just can't solve until you get to a certain point, and there's cost to that. So I understand why those models exist. But if you don't have to do it, don't do
Why?
it. We were
Yeah.
profitable from month one so that we can invest in growth, invest in people, invest in these other things. And we've just scaled from there. The third thing that I've learned is just don't underestimate core values in your vision and your mission. You hear about it, you talk about it, but we had those from day one. I had 0 employees, and I knew our mission, our vision, and our values. We call our mission our purpose now, but it was like our vision, our purpose, and our values. And every single person at my company can recite them by heart. We hire and fire from them. I had a challenging situation yesterday. This person's actually on this webinar right now. I won't get into the details. A challenging client, and this person reached out to me, stressed out about this challenging client, and I just helped him out a little bit, and it was like all guided by core values. And
Mm-hmm.
the person kind of got out of line with one of our core values. He recognized it. I recognized it. We talked about it. We solved the whole thing. It's a non-issue, and like that was so cool to see. Even though there was a problem and a challenge, those core values came to play. And now we have 550 plus people around the world. Everyone knows the core values. Everyone knows our purpose. Everyone knows our vision. And it's like this huge aligning light for us as we grow. And I had none of that at my old business. I was like,
Yeah.
what? This is
Like,
hocus
who needs
pocus.
that?
Exactly. But
What are your,
I'll
do
sell
you
you
mind
one.
sharing,
I'll sell
do
you
you,
one.
do you mind sharing your values?
Yeah, they're
that you-
friendly, smart working, service, tenacity, and truth. And then
Nice.
our vision is to be the most, or to change lives through creativity. And our purpose
Love
is
it.
to be the most helpful creative company in the world.
All simple, easy to understand, easy to go back
And
to. Great anchors.
it drives executive decisions. It drives hiring. We measure candidates on these things. Like it's just a great compass for us.
So moving on to even more great things. You've made the Inc. 500 lists. You've been celebrated so many times. Can you share some more of your accomplishments, some of the highlights as you've grown with Design Pickle?
Well, I actually got super pumped because, again, I mentioned I'm an ASU alumni. I don't know how competitive it was. I think that, the ASU is doing their own thing, but I was on the ASU list of like 100 businesses.
That's awesome.
And I just was like, I was more excited for that than the Inc. Even though, I think is probably less competitive because it was just cool to see Arizona and what everyone's doing. Of course, I got crushed by the juggernaut David Friedman and Freestar, who like just smashed our growth with his insane growth. So there was no possible way we could have beaten him. I got second place. But the point was just like it was just cool, and I'm actually friends with David, so like that was a really exciting part. Other really amazing milestones which are never known or celebrated is when our team has growth milestones. So we have like 2 babies on the way. We have people that are like thriving in their careers, and this is globally. I've been to several Zoom weddings over the last few months, attending weddings for coworkers. And that's like, again, because that value or that vision to change lives through creativity, we're seeing that happen firsthand. So, I don't apply to a lot of these things. I think a lot of it's vanity, the awards and whatnot. It's the performance of the company. Actually, I had one of the most proudest moments in a long time. I was actually really like emotional about it today. There's been a huge typhoon in the Philippines yesterday and the day before, and it took out about 100 of our team members, power, like flooding, all sorts of stuff. Jeez. And my team handled everything seamlessly. Like we had incident reports, we had metrics, we had communication. We have a support fund that we save money for to help team members, because a lot of our team members are in countries that this can happen. And like I helped facilitate the call this morning at 8 a.m, and it was like I didn't even need to be there. Like everyone had it under control. Our head of CS, Aaron Spence, just an amazing man. He had it all organized. And like that I felt like so proud in that moment, right?
Yeah.
That we had it, and everyone's fine. Like our whole team's good. It's really just an infrastructure hit, and it's hard for that country because they don't have the best infrastructure. But at the end of the day, like that's what you can hope for as a leader of a company, is that when those things kind of happen, that this is how it plays out.
Yeah, and that you had the foresight to put that fund together.
Yeah.
Incredibly thankful for that. Well, I love that you mentioned the celebrations of weddings, and that's what people don't talk about as much. Like everyone in your company has a life, and you're making them better.
So most of the babies we've had are like guys who work here. We have a very mixed team, very diverse team, but all the guys, their wives are having babies. We have our first Pickle baby, which is a woman who's working here, and I'm like, I kind of creeped her out. I was like, you know the tale of Rumpelstiltskin, right? Where he steals the baby. Like, this is not your baby. This is Design Pickle's baby. This is the first one like that we've had. So I don't know. That was probably like a weird example to give, but we were all really excited. We did like a virtual baby shower for her, so it was cool.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah. Lots of pickle themed things, I'm sure.
Tons.
So I'm going to take a little bit of time because I love how you dove into self-discovery and life as an entrepreneur. So you kind of went into this after you wrote a book called The Sober Entrepreneur. If anyone wants to buy it.
5 stars on Amazon, and also
There
the
you go.
audiobook with 3 errors I haven't corrected on the reading. So just deal with it.
How important do you think it is for other entrepreneurs to work on self-discovery? I know you've mentioned it in one of our questions, but can you share any more tips on like anything that's really helped you?
Yeah. So here's a principle I live and die by. Your business will only grow as much as you do. So if you're like on year 7 of your business and you haven't grown at all in all 7 years, it's because you're not growing. That's it. You're not challenging yourself. You're not doing things that grow you. So why should your business change? For me, self-discovery is about what am I capable of outside my business? And then I immediately see how that impacts and moves my business. And like facing things like global typhoons, international law workforce. Like I have more lawyers than imaginable in all these countries dealing with all these things and challenges. And like the 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19 version of Russ couldn't handle what the 2020 version of Russ is handling. But I continue to invest in that through a litany of things, whether it's self-discovery in books and reading, courses, master peer groups, masterminds. Startup AZ is a great group that I got involved in this year from an invitation from Chris Ronzio, actually. And so like that challenges me. And then I do challenging things too. Like I go hike hard things and I try long runs and I learned skills that I suck at. And I tried boxing for 3 months and that was brutal, but I just tried it. And because that willingness to do and challenge without any incentive, without any carrot, you just choose to do it. That is what grows you as a leader for your business, for your teams, and the integrity that when you're asking your team to do challenging things, when you're asking your team to go out of their comfort zones, to reach those stretch goals, to work later, do whatever, they know you're someone who has and will continue to do the same. So that to me is interrelated. And
Yeah.
I was in business groups where it's like 32-year-old business and they're like 10% or 1% revenue growth a year. And so like 30 years later, they've grown, but I'm doing 100% in 1 year. So it's, just a different lifestyle. Some people don't want the challenge and don't want the growth. But I figure that I can't, a company I admire and I follow is Fiverr. They went public last year. Of course, they're crushing. Their stock price is amazing. And like I think about what they're doing, and I know some of their leadership, and I'm just so in awe. And I'm like their CEO Mika, like how could he handle earnings calls? Like what does that even mean? I don't even know. But like we're on that trajectory. Like we're literally at the same revenue pace than them, and we make more profit than they currently do. So like percentage wise. But like point is this is that if they can do it, the difference between me and someone like that, the chairman of or the CEO of a publicly traded company, is that personal growth.
Is that one of your goals to possibly take Design Pickle public?
Oh, kind of. Yeah, that'd be crazy. But I don't know if we're that right kind of company. I don't even know. Like, that's what I need to learn. Like, what is that path?
That's a whole nother rabbit hole.
Yeah, exactly.
And coming back to your book, I know you went through the process of getting sober, but what prompted you to write the book?
For my kids and my posterity first. My father is an amazing guy. He's had crazier struggles than I could ever imagine. Like his father died when he was 16. Like just growing up in rural Arizona, no support, nothing. And he went through these challenges, but there was no like learning from his challenges. Like there weren't ever, hey son, let's have the fireside chat. Let me teach you what I've learned through all this hardship.
Yeah. Let me videotape it and send it to you.
And you think about like the boomers and like that generation, like it's their strategy is more like, let me suppress it down as far as I can, not talk about it, and just chin up. That's kind of their plan. So I I wanted to write this book so I can literally just give it to my kids and say, here's all the mistakes I pretty much made. Probably made more sense then, but none as bad as this, and learned from it. Here's some tools, here's some tips, and let's talk about it if you want. And they can consume it. And I've given it to my 15-year-old. She's kind of reluctant to read it. She thinks kind of like, I don't want to read a book about you, Dad. That's weird. But she has it. I think she's read like a third of it. Then I realized, wow, there's a lot of people in my situation. And that was the second reason, was to get this out there. I think over 6,000 people have purchased or downloaded the book. I get messages weekly randomly from people who find it. They're usually searching for entrepreneur books and they find mine recommended by Amazon. So that's such a cool thing to be able to share those struggles and talk about it. It's just a really plain book. Like, it's plain language. It's not written from any sort of angle. Like, I'm not trying to sell something or a program, or I'm not like a celebrity trying to talk about, my crazy drug life or whatever. It's just like, hey, I'm an average guy. Here's these problems that I've had, and here's what I did to solve them. And that resonates with a lot of people.
Absolutely. It's probably helped a lot of people.
Like Russell Brand released his sober book the same week mine was released. And I was so pissed. I was like, if you're searching Russell sober, like, I just got annihilated in the search results.
Oh, the timing on that one.
It's comedic, it's sensationalist, it's how crazy my life is, and you can't relate to it. It's entertainment.
Yeah. You're like, well, that's not going to be my life.
Wow, that's so crazy. You're doing all these drugs with naked chicks on a plane. Like, that's hey, wow, what a hard life. Like, me, it was like I was like, it's Tuesday and I drank too much at my desk. Like, like in Tempe, Arizona, like that.
Not married to Katy Perry.
Yeah, exactly. Like, not exciting at all.
And much more relatable to most people. So as a busy entrepreneur, you have a spouse, which you've worked very hard to keep your marriage intact. Great for you.
Thank you.
Can you give anyone some advice on keeping a good work-life balance, especially as they're beginning to build a business and go through the successes like you have had?
Well, for me, I never don't work with them. That's kind of one piece of advice. Because there's, I think, enough just things you got to sort out just being married or in a relationship in general. So that's been a big strategy for us, kind of keep things different. Now with Mika, she is my spiritual guide. So I bring her in on important decisions with no date, no details, no data, no forewarning. Like, hey, I got this thing I need to talk to you about. Can I talk to you, or can we talk about it tonight? And then I'll just give her option A, option B. She might ask a few questions and then make a decision. So that to me is she's so good at that. And it's been 100% right every single time in her personal life, professional life. She's very, very, she has that spirituality instinctiveness that she can just make that. And I don't. I'll either overcomplicate it, or I have too much information and I'm thinking about it. But I also know that there needs to be a reward through all the sweat, toil, blood, and tears. And early coach of mine said, Russ, if you're going to go down this path, you need to make 10 times more than whatever your wife would like to spend. Because then you're creating this value. And this is not how much can I spend kind of deal, but this is let's actually put some skin in the game of why you're doing this. What do you want for your life? What do you want for your world? And it's not a man-woman thing, but if you're the entrepreneur and you have a committed, loving person, you better make sure there's a payday and a payout that they're tracking the progress of, or that's happening, because they're going to put up with a ton. And if you promise the moon and the moon never comes, there's a much worse situation you're going to be walking into. So for me, it was always how can my decisions as an entrepreneur and running a business change my life first? And that's our part of our vision, change lives through creativity. How do I change my life first? And so it was I'm going to have a real salary as soon as I can have a real salary. I'm not going to be the guy that pays myself $32,000 a year as a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company so that everyone could get paid.
Except for us, the ones that are sacrificing.
I have been, and I will be the highest paid person at my company, and I'm not ashamed of it. And if you look at our books, the people that we hire and bring on, like we try to give them competitive salaries. We try to create roadmaps for them to make more money. And if it's not happening, we talk about it and we figure it out. So it's not just me that I want that for. I want that for everybody. Our creatives make more than you can in their countries. We provide more resources, flexibility. It's not just about money too. It's about time and freedom.
Yep.
So, like back to the spouse and partner thing, I think that was one thing. And then like do a lot of therapy. Like that's my other point. Is like I love therapy. So you can tell I like to talk, but it's a coach in a relationship, and it's essential to have that voice between whatever you're dealing with. And my wife have done therapy like for months at a time. We don't do it. We do here, we do there. But sometimes we'll just like, hey, we need a tune up. Let's just go talk and check in. And it's fantastic. And it's like insurance in a way for a marriage.
Yeah. And you have someone that doesn't know your all the things.
And here's right. They're totally like, and here's a sign of a good therapist too. You both feel like you won when you leave. Like if you both feel like, yes, see, I told you so. And you're both doing that, then that's a good therapist because they figured out whatever was going on.
That is good. That's a great temperature check.
Yeah.
So my last question before we get to some of the audience questions and a little rapid fire just to get to know you better is, what do you see Design Pickle in 10 years? What does that look like? Or 5 years?
So we are, so we're probably Pickle by then. We do flat rate services across all creativity, motion graphics, copywriting, video editing, 3D modeling, CAD. We probably have a lot of really cool integrations where you can find other support, whether it's like creative consultings, art directors. You can kind of build this team inside of our ecosystem, and they can just get to work. But it's super seamless. It's super clean. Like a seasoned marketer doesn't have to stress out about finding and vetting and doing all this stuff. Like it's just works really, really well. We're in, as many countries as we can be in as far as our creative teams, providing the best quality of life for them, creating careers, not freelancing side hustle money, like actually creating careers on our platform. And that's exciting for me. And I think like unlocking creativity, it's kind of one of those idealistic things to say, but what people struggle with a lot, if you don't self-identify as a creative, is like, I have these ideas. I don't know how to share that outward and facilitate, like communicate that. So that's where we want our software and our experience to just deliver, so it's like takes all that friction out. You don't have this fear, or if you're super busy, like our software knows what you need. It helps you create the next thing. It does that with the tech AI piece supported by our creatives and our team members. And it just allows people to create more seamlessly.
Yeah. I love that vision.
Thanks. I just articulated it for the first time like that ever to you right now. So that's where
well, now it's recorded. You can you can share that on your next big strategy call. All right, before we get to questions, so audience, please put some questions in the chat. I'll ask them. We would love to hear your questions. I'm sure Russ is up for anything.
Yep.
Let's do a couple rapid fire. So we know your favorite pickle. Favorite restaurant in Phoenix or DoorDash for right now?
Well, admittedly, I have gone to this restaurant because I love it so much. Ocean 44.
Me too. The crab legs. Oh my gosh.
And they have these booths. Huge. I call them the COVID booths now. You can ask for them. They're like in the back of the restaurant by the open bar seafood one. And they're just like closed door. They have screens and curtains. You can just be in there by yourself. It's really great.
Wow. Okay. And their croissant rolls. Delicious. Oh, yeah. Favorite app on your phone?
Favorite app on my phone right now? Let me look and remind myself. It's going to be tie between Milanote, which is like a new hipster Evernote that one of my teammates, Michaela, tipped me off of, and Duolingo. I am currently on like day 73 of Spanish.
How's it going?
Muy bien.
The end. Favorite child? Just kidding.
I can give you an answer, but this is being recorded, so I won't.
This is being recorded. Tacos or sushi?
Oh, sushi.
Favorite book other than your own?
Edner's Game by Orson Scott Card. It's a sci-fi book.
Okay. Movie?
Oh man, I would say Interstellar.
Ooh, good choice.
Yeah.
And last one, next place you're going to vacation after COVID, outside the country.
Probably Hawaii. We tried to go this year several times and couldn't make it.
Yeah.
I guess, that's technically in the country, but that's
Which island?
yeah. The Big Island is where we'd like to go.
Ooh, I'll have to get your tips on that one next time. I'm definitely interested in that. All right. So Eddie has a question. Thank you, Russ. That was fantastic.
Absolutely.
I love learning about you. You have some great advice to share. Before I get to their questions, anything you want to wrap up with? Any kind of piece of advice? Anything for Arizonans?
No, I mean, like, I love telling my story. I'm actually launching a new newsletter next month that's really focused on my role as CEO of Design Pickle. And so it's a new list. So if you go to designpickle.com/under, it's called Under the Lid, like under the pickle jar lid, I guess. So you can get on that list. And it's going to be very long form. It's going to be very like just storytelling. It's going to be how I lost $3 million last year. That's going to be the first
Ooh,
tale I tell.
I'm not even going to ask you more because I want to wait to read it.
Yep. It wasn't because of illegal activity, unfortunately.
Okay.
It's totally normal, but it's still a good story.
That might have been an even better story, but that's okay. You're not Russell Brand. So Eddie has a question. He says, I see a lot of new companies spending more on PPC, your ads too. How are you staying ahead of the competition?
Eddie, great question. And I see our ads costing rising a lot. So we're narrowing our targets. We're going to be focusing on, we've had 5 personas this year that we've identified to work on and focus our ads around. We're going to be trimming that down to 2 and really going after much more niche verticals inside of our service related to who we want to target with those ads. So the messaging, the ad creative, things like that, because that way, unless you're in that bucket, if I was doing ads for, let's say, octopuses with only 7 legs, like, are you an octopus that has lost a leg? Like only octopuses, if they can click on ads, would click on that ad. So we're trying to make our copy and our messaging really narrow so that our ad spend could go further, and those that engage with it are our true core audience.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Well, it's the only question. So I gave it my all.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Any other questions? Ooh, well, thanks, Eddie. Otherwise, I'll keep asking them.
Sure.
I mean, I can keep going. What was your biggest design pickle as a designer?
Me personally?
Yeah, in your graphic design days.
Oh, well, it was my first freelance gig ever, slinging under the table design from Apple. And it was a married couple. They had a restaurant in Chicago. They stayed here during the winter and they ran the restaurant, and they needed a new menu design. And I was like, no problem. I could do a menu design. Turns out there's a lot of real design psychology that goes into menu design. It's not just like design whatever, like where you place things, colors, the pricing, like what priced items are where, why the beverages are always on the back. Like there's like buyer psychology behind all that. And I knew nothing. So I designed the worst menu ever for them, and it was a disaster and super embarrassing. So I would say, like, I felt like I was in a huge pickle after that because I totally botched the job.
Who knew? Next time you look at a menu, you're not going to think the same
item
thing.
That's like the
anyone in this audience.
Special item that's in the call out box is always their most profitable one.
Oh,
from a food cost perspective.
Roseanne, thank you for the question. Said, I'd love advice on how to pick the right business partner and break out responsibilities and ownership equity if you're not married. Lessons learned.
don't have a business partner. That's my lesson learned. So I don't have any business partners. I don't think you need one. If you even if you need tech or stuff involved, you can figure out how to do that on your own. I think there's a lot of like old advice, like, oh, you need a co-founder, you need a partner. It just makes things more complicated. So I actually had a business partner, and it was super stressful. And Design Pickle, I don't. I started it on my own. We now have like stock, and team members have ownership in the company, and that's exciting to have. But I have all the control, and I'm also now able to do that because I've invested in myself and my own certainty. So Roseanne, I'd go to bat just on a limb to say you might think you need it because you lack skills in this area or this area, and you want to find someone to offset those skills. Just find them. Don't make them a partner. Just hire someone and pay them well. They'll do just fine, especially if you're just starting out. Now, if there is like some biotech thing you want and you need a scientist to invent it for you, then that could be an exemption to my advice, but um, probably not. So it just, especially when you're starting, like there's no real need to have the complexities of that. Just start, test it, get it going, and then make those kinds of decisions later on once there's a real business case for it.
And Eddie has some more questions.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Eddie.
We like you. Thanks, Eddie. Love the questions. I'm assuming you invested a lot of in your client designer dashboard. When you first started, did you have this custom platform built?
So when we first started, no, we used off the shelf stuff, and we didn't really have a platform for almost until our third year, like into our second and into our third. Um, so that to us was a huge investment. Like we were a service company that had some software helping it. We really made the move to become a software company that provides services in 2018, and that was a turning point for us. And so our first dashboard was super rickety. I mean, early on, you could like hack our system really easily if you just knew the right email. You could just send in requests. You didn't even need a paid account or anything. Like it was totally ungated. But like we've discovered, one of the purposes of our software is to streamline the creative experience. So now we've just been bulking up our product team, our engineers, our designers, all of that in this year, towards the end of this year. And I've found that it's just a matter of producing and delivering on that mission, which is to be the most helpful creative company in the world. If you can log in and see all your requests, make them easy. There's a super easy, helpful tool to make those: search, edit, annotation tools, all this all in one. That's going to provide just a better experience.
You probably wouldn't have known all of that if you tried to build it first.
Yeah, you can over engineer the heck out of it. So that's another thing. Being bootstrapped, we just used what we could afford. And so we ended up saving a lot of money, because then when we built something like our internal tool that manages all the requests, we built it off of what we learned using Freshdesk for 3 years. So like it taught us what we needed, and we used that in our new tool, and everything we didn't need, we didn't build. And so it was a leaner app that worked exactly the way we needed.
And the last question he has is, what does a typical morning look like for you? Eddie, I'm adding to my questions. I love that.
Yeah. So a typical morning is I will wake up at 5, and I will be at the office by 5:30. We have a gym at our office. My office is close to my house, so I come here still and sweat, whether it's a run, a bike, a weight workout. I will either shower here, run home, take one of my 2 younger daughters to school. One goes to preschool now, and the other's going to 3rd grade. Come here back to the office, meditate, journal, plan my day. There's about 2 cups of coffee inside of that at some point. And after my workout, I'll usually like right after my workout, I'll have a protein shake with organic protein. And meditation for me is important. I use Headspace. That's the app I enjoy. Super easy, free. And then I just get after it. Most of my meetings start between 8 and 9. So then that's like kind of when my day begins. And I I'm usually in bed between 9 and 10 until my day ends.
Speaking of which, it's time for dinner. Well, Russ, oh, nope, Eddie's got one more. Oh, sorry.
All right.
Hiring employees, you said you hire them based on Design Pickle's values. From your experience, what has helped to filter out the bad apples?
Me not hiring. So we have the bad apple filter. His name is Alec Melger, and he's the filter for culture. I'm not the filter for culture. So if you create the culture, you create the values, you create all that, you're going to find that in a lot of people, and they're going to really promote it to you. They're going to be the ones who are like read you, and you're the CEO, you're the leader. So I not outsourced, but he's full-time team member. I gave that responsibility to someone else. So by the time I talk to people, if I'm interviewing them, they are pre-screened from the culture standpoint and pre-approved. And now I'm much more practical, tactical, strategic, things like that. The bad hires we've made, they weren't bad. They were great people. We made a mistake in the hiring process. We're all people that I screened and I hired, and I was the one doing it. So as soon as you can get someone else doing that and you give them the box, you tell them, this is what I value. This is what you got to measure for. This is what I'm doing. I don't know why, but it just becomes a lot easier to make sure that people follow that.
Great answer. Well, on that note, unless we have any other questions, Russ, it's been such a pleasure from our meeting in March.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that we got to get together today, and I am very sure I will be sending this out to many other people that weren't able to attend tonight. This will live on forever at YouTube. So if you have anyone that would really enjoy this, you had some great advice to share tonight. So
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Until then, I hope to see you someday in person.
Totally.
But if you, the audience, has anyone that has a design pickle or needs some help, soon to be Pickle, go to Russ, go to Design Pickle. Awesome. Great company.
Well, Lauren, I really appreciate you doing this. We were all really looking forward to it. So thanks for hosting it and continuing it on in this circumstance.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to work on my background. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.